Siomra.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Black Mirror Season 6. We're all living in it now. You see, what I've done there is a little joke. That was a much cleverer joke a week and a half ago when I thought of it, Ben. But now Black Mirror are actually doing it as a joke themselves. It's wasted. It's wasted. But what I'm saying look, Ben, what I'm saying really is, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to I'm Siomra. Welcome back to the Tiny Room. I'm the Michael of Michaelandbenjaminspodcast. And I am joined by, really, the man who could best be described as useful as a chocolate teapot. It's Benjamin.
I've done nothing this week.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ireland's most well-prepared and researched podcast. It's Michaelandbenjaminspodcast. Ben, do you want to give us a bit of theme tune there?
I'm not really prepared to do that, Michael. Sorry.
Very good.
Theme music for the podcast. We don't actually have any theme music.
Very good. A very quick change in energy there. I enjoyed it. Benjamin.
Yes.
The biggest news is that America is tearing itself apart, but you know
It's over.
Yeah.
It's over, Michael.
Good
It's
lads.
over.
Look, Ben, maybe they'll sort it out. That's the best we can bloody hope for, isn't it?
Not going to hold my breath, Michael.
Maybe
not
they'll
gonna
sort
hold
it
my
out.
breath.
But Benjamin, all social political issues aside, Ben,
Yes.
comic book shops are going to reopen. Isn't that more important?
Oh, thank God, Michael. The most pressing issue of our times.
They're going to
Oh,
reopen, Ben, from Monday. Isn't that potentially a good thing?
I mean, Michael, this really puts your podcast with two white guys in Ireland in perspective, doesn't it? I mean, what are we really doing here?
We're talking about comics, and we're keeping our noses clean.
Yep.
So, Ben, yeah, we'll be able to buy comics from next week. That's nice, isn't it? And comic
Which
books
is
will
actually quite nice, Michael. We'll also be able to see other human beings, which is quite nice.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
I mean, technically, Ben, we would be allowed to record this podcast together from next week.
Technically, but
Probably won't. Probably won't.
One of the great tragedies, Michael, of this whole thing is that our sound quality vastly improves when we're not in the same room
Yeah,
together.
it's a very small room, Ben, you see. That's what people are often saying to us. It's a very tiny room.
It's almost like we named it that as a convention.
Yes. So, Benjamin, anyway, look, during the week, Benjamin, I noticed a little new addition to Netflix.
Go on.
And I said to myself, I'd quite like to watch that thing. It looks like it might tickle my fancy. But then, Ben, good friend of the podcast and regular contributor, Dr. Stephen Jezebel Cadwell.
Yes. Happy birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday to him.
It's his birthday during the week.
Yes. He posted up a bloody thing on the Instagram, Ben. He said, look, if you like your science fictions and whatnot, and you like your kind of tightly written, tightly presented, low-budget science fiction films, maybe you should give this a watch.
Bloody singing Mick Leonard's song is what he was doing.
He was singing Oh, Ben, he's talking to my music. Is that a phrase? No, it isn't.
Yeah,
but look,
that's
Ben,
it. Nailed it.
I watched it, Ben.
bud.
I watched it, Ben.
And Michael, what did you think of it?
Very, very good. I'll give you a brief synopsis first, Ben.
Give me the beats.
Give
me the beats.
It's America.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's America before everything started going a bit wonky. And
they had a strong bond.
Yeah.
Not like Leo.
Maybe they'll sort themselves out, Ben. Maybe this will be great.
I mean, yeah, sure.
maybe
Or the
things
country's going to bloody annex itself into two parts and slowly drift.
Maybe they'll sort it out. Anyway, Ben, what was I saying? Yes, so it's America, but it's the olden times, maybe the 50s.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure exactly. People had windy up radios and hats and big cars that were Buicks.
Hats.
Yeah, and it's a small town, Ben. And on an evening of a small town, as you know, Ben, in the small town America, one of the big things that they really enjoy is races. No, basketball, high school basketball. They really like high school basketball. We're staying out of the politics,
our noses
Ben.
clean. Keeping our noses clean.
So they're staying out of high school basketball. They love high school basketball, and the whole town is at the high school basketball match, except our two central characters, Ben.
Who are black?
No, there's no. I actually don't think there are any black people in it. It is set in the small town America in the 50s. I don't know about America, Ben, but anyway. It's the teenage girl who's the local kind of switchboard operator. So she's on the night shift, and it's the kind of quick talking, fast talking radio DJ guy who knows about radios, and he's doing the kind of drive time evening show.
That would be you, Michael, in this scenario.
I don't know, Ben. I hate radio DJs. You do
They are terrible, terrible people.
Yes.
Would you like me to do a quick?
You do a quick. Yeah. You do a quick one.
So do you know what I was doing the other day, Circa? Do you know what I was doing? I was sitting down as usual, just doing nothing, sir. Oh, classic me, you know me. And you know what?
You're
Circa?
mad.
I turned on this mental movie on Netflix, and you know me, Circa. I love a Netflix. All right,
that'll
so
do.
I sat down and I flicked it on, and Circa, my mind was absolutely blown. Just out there stuff, just crazy. And I know what you're saying, Circa. Tom, you're always mental, but Circa, this was really mental.
Tom, you're mental. Anyway, Ben. So they're on the radio.
God,
they're radio operators.
Garbage people, they really are.
So she's on the phone lines, Ben. She's on the phone lines, and he's on the radio. And Ben, what do those two things have in common? They have in common the signals. So
Bloody signalis.
on this dark, quiet night when the whole town is gathered up in one place, they start detecting strange signals.
A spooky signal, Michael.
Yeah, a kind of spooky signal over the radio waves. And they start getting fragmented and broken reports of strange things in the sky.
Uh-oh.
It's a very good, Ben. It's a very fascinating setup.
Okay, sounds interesting, Michael.
It is
I'm
interesting.
intrigued.
It's very interesting, Ben. And it's a UFO story, Ben. But it's a UFO story from the perspective of a person experiencing a UFO story. It's like if you imagine if you or I, Ben, were kids in the late 80s or early 90s, and we were fascinated by UFOs and stories of people having the very briefest of encounters with UFOs. Not close encounters of the third kind UFOs, where hundreds of people and the military gather on the mountain and it's a big world-changing event. But just creepy stories and strange happenings.
This thing is going bump in the nighttime.
Yeah, it's very good, Ben. It's very good, and the kind of the crux of it, it revolves around them encountering a couple of people who have theories about what's going on. So, for example, one character calls in on the radio show and gives his explanation of what he thinks the strange phenomena are.
Oh, that does sound interesting.
But it's just people talking. That's the fun of it.
But it's a very good film.
It's a very good film, Ben. I'll go into mild spoilers now. Some very mild,
Go on.
very mild spoilers.
Do now spoiler pause.
Very, very mild spoilers for the film The Vast of Night, Ben. The ending I felt was a bit rushed.
Oh no, a rushed ending.
Yeah, it climaxes very quickly, Ben, as you would know yourself. I've bloody gotcha. But Ben, it comes to a bit of a head surprisingly abruptly, which I suppose is a stylistic choice as well. But you know, it wasn't my favorite thing about it. And Ben, my one other complaint is I think I would have liked if there was one more vignette in it. And vignette's probably the wrong word, because the two strongest parts of the entire film are when they encounter characters who've encountered this before, and it's essentially that character doing a monologue.
And you'd like another monologue. And
one more monologue, Ben. One more monologue and a slightly extended ending, and I think you would have had the perfect film. Now, Ben,
chef's kiss.
Now, Ben, they may well have recorded one more monologue and made the movie with one more monologue and then said, it's a bit long, isn't it? Will we take out Philip? And then they took out that third monologue. But I don't know. Look, who am I to argue about it? It's fantastic. Dr. Stephen Jesward Casabel said that he was upset that he hadn't made it himself. And it is one of those real films that I think will get amateur filmmaking enthusiasts riled up, because other than a couple of very nice tracking shots and the fact that it's entirely set in the 50s, you could do this on a budget of a couple of €1,000 probably.
And it'd be bloody great.
Well, you'd have to pay the actors. If you don't have to pay the actors, Ben, it would be very cheap, obviously. But obviously the period setting makes it more expensive, because you don't get 1950s cars just hanging around town doing, you know what I'm saying?
Bloody Buicks.
You'd have to hire up some Buicks and some period dress and stuff. But if you said it now, Ben, anyone could make that film, apart from the one or two very fancy tracking shots.
Yeah, but I mean, an L tracking shot. What's a tracking shot between friends?
Exactly, Ben. And you know what's very strange about it?
Go on.
There's a very, very, very small cameo from the actor who plays Guillermo in our new favorite show. What's going on at nighttime?
What's going on this evening?
That's
the one. Bloody Guillermo, what a hero! Glad to see he's in there. Definitely gonna watch it now.
He only has a tiny little cameo. I was like, "There's Guillermo from What's Happening at, when it's not day. What's it actually called?
What We Do in the Shadows.
What's Going On at Nighttime? Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what will we be doing this afternoon? Are you busy this afternoon?
That's
classic.
That's what it should be called.
New Zealand comedy. Well, that brings me to my point, Michael.
Go on.
I've been watching less good television.
Oh, very excellent.
Series and things. I've been catching up with the Harley Quinn cartoon, which is very quickly into season 2. Season 1 only just wrapped up, and they suddenly launched season 2.
They probably
and that
had
has nearly
it
wrapped
then.
up now.
They probably had it in the can.
They probably did, and then once the old COVID-19 struck, I'd say they just said, "Well, fucking release the hounds,
yeah,
get it done." And I suppose the only interesting development here, Michael, is that it confirms a long-held fan, not a fan theory, I suppose a fan fantasy, really. In this universe of the Harley Quinnendom, the Poison Ivy Harley Quinn bond is as strong as ever.
It's a strong bond.
It's a strong bond. And Michael, she's set to marry Kite Man. The old Poison Ivy is set to marry Kite Man.
Oh, really?
She has settled down. And the girls get themselves into a bit of a classic scrape, Michael,
yeah.
with Bane. And they find themselves in a bit of a pickle. A bit of a pickle, Michael.
A pickle, Rick.
And they have to get themselves out of that pickle, Rick, Michael. And we'll do mild spoilers here now, just for the end of coming up to the end of this season. Basically, what happens is the girls escape the pickle, Rick.
Yeah.
And then they have a little schnog out of the excitement of it all.
Oh, very good.
And Michael, that confirms a long-held theory that bloody Harley Quinn and Miss Poison Ivy should be in an romantic relationship.
Is that the
then,
first?
Michael,
is that the first kind of canon kiss they've had? Surely not.
I think it's the first canon one, yeah.
Surely not. Surely in the
it's
comics.
been hinted at in various things, but I think probably the first canon. But Michael,
Yes.
what makes it even more interesting, Michael?
Yes.
What makes it even more interesting?
What makes it
is
more
that
interesting?
The following episode is all about them trying to figure out their complex feelings for each other.
Oh.
And so it's really a development of that relationship, Michael, in a whole new way.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so a little bit of fan service, a little bit of... I'm sure it's going to send people into an uproar because it hasn't really been hinted at throughout the rest of the series. It's a very abrupt decision. But you look, Michael, it's a cartoon about Harley Quinn. They can do what they like.
It's fascinating, though, isn't it? Because, look, Ben, I don't really know enough about Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy to speak about this authoritatively.
That was the most Irish Poison Ivy I've ever
Poison
heard.
Ivy! But so I may well be sticking my foot in it here. But isn't it funny that... a relationship that was probably initially designed as fan service and for titillation has become one of the better representations of non heterosexual standard relationships in comics.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
It's pretty strange, isn't it?
I mean, solid.
Definitely. I don't. Again, I say I don't know enough about this to actually know this for a fact. So listeners might be able to point me the right direction. But it was almost certainly designed originally to titillate.
Oh, it was 100% originally designed to titillate. There is no questions, Michael. No questions. Bloody Rule 34 was in full effect. And then it transitioned into, well, we could probably tease the lads at home with a little bit of this, sell a few more issues, do a scandalous cover or two.
And now it's like, aren't relationships complex?
Isn't there a lot of subtext here?
The things are going on. But yeah, I think that's very interesting, Ben. Not
it
interesting
is very
enough
interesting,
to
Michael.
watch.
And it's handled in a fairly mature fashion, in the sense that both of them are trying to deny it in the beginning, where they're like, well, we were very excited. We just escaped a bloody Bane. Bloody, this has never been a thing before. How silly of us all. And then Harley Quinn kind of goes into a bit of a full denial, Michael, of the whole affair. And she's like, oh, it's me, Harley Quinn. I'm crazy. I'm always kissing people. Da, da, da. So it's really interesting. You see a little bit of character growth from both of them. It's a very good cartoon, Michael. It's a very good cartoon. I can honestly say 2 seasons in, Michael, worth a bloody watch.
I've never been a fan of Harley Quinn, Ben, so it doesn't appeal to me.
I'm not necessarily certain I'm a fan of Harley Quinn, Michael. I just think it's an interesting take on the DC universe overall.
Ah.
I think it's a very entertaining watch.
Dr. Harleen Quinzel, Ben.
It's played for pure tongue-in-cheekedness, and I think it's worth a watch, Michael. Worth an eyeballing.
I probably won't.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough. Speaking of things that you have watched that I've recommended, though, Michael, what have you been watching this week?
I've been watching more of Snowpiercer, Ben.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Bloody murders on a train.
You're the best damn cop on this apocalypse train, and we're gonna get you. You better solve this crime, you son of a bitch. It's fucking bizarre,
Okay.
Ben.
Go on.
I'm aware, Ben, and you're aware. We're both aware of the fact
Very
that
aware.
we're talking about the same things a lot these last couple of weeks. But what else
There's
are we
not a
going
lot
to do?
going on, Michael.
What else are we going to do? So you're just going to have to live with me talking about Snowpiercer again.
Yeah. Sorry,
But
lads.
Ben, you remember Ben in Snowpiercer?
Yeah.
How in the movie Snowpiercer, Ben, as
Yeah.
they moved up the train, they encountered different strata of society. And it
Yes.
presented the kind of class struggle of society as a very linear thing. And that was one of the fascinating things about it.
Yes, upward social mobility in a visual form.
Yeah, and when you're making a procedural detective show, Ben, I don't know if you've ever noticed this about procedural detective shows, but let's say Castle is with Kate Beckett, and they're like,
Yes.
Castle, we've got to find out where this pole dancer got murdered.
Jesus.
And then in the next scene, they're at the pole dancing club.
Useful.
And then they
Useful.
say, okay, well, it turns out there's no clues here. So let's go back to your house and further our romantic tension subplot. And
Nice.
then in the next scene, they're in Castle's house.
Okay.
Right? You're familiar with that conceit of television and film, Ben. That
Yes,
you
the
don't-
jump.
Yeah, that you can jump between locations and the viewer's mind will fill in, they probably drove there, or they must have walked there.
Or they got there somehow.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
very
your
easy.
brain assumes how they've got there, and most of the time
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, Ben. The thing is, Ben, when you're making a bloody film about social structure being an incredibly linear journey, and they're fighting their way through the train cars,
The whole entire train.
yeah, that conceit doesn't make sense, does it?
No, because how did they get there?
Exactly.
They couldn't have walked.
Yeah. So if they say in Snowpiercer, for example, let's say they're in the morgue, which is a car, they have a morgue car, and then
Okay.
they have to go and check out the butcher's car. How do they get there? What did they walk through to get there?
They have to go
And-
through all the other cars.
Yeah. And Ben, let's say that my house is further up the train than the butcher's car, but
Yes.
but the nightclub car is further down the train. Do I have to walk through the butcher's workspace every time I want to get to?
You do.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think you do.
I
But-
think you do.
That's what I'm saying, that the conceit of this doesn't make a whole heap of sense.
I tell you what, if I was the butcher on that train, I'd be pretty sick of seeing the best damn cop on the train every 2 minutes walking through my
Yeah,
fucking
just
butcher
pacing
shop.
backwards and forwards, going, oh, this guy again. And then, Ben, some of the cars are secure, so you need a passcode to get into them. But how do you
Yeah.
get bloody through them?
Yeah,
I
very
mean-
messy, Michael.
I mean, and then you can kind of conceit your way around that by saying, well, just imagine it's like a real train where there's a corridor off to the left for passage, and then the actual cabins are on the right side. But then you don't need to actually go through them all, do you?
No, you probably don't. No,
You can just
no.
circumnavigate them, and then what's the
Yeah.
point of the whole bloody thing?
Yeah, see, this is probably what happens, Michael, when you take a perfectly simple idea that can be executed very easily in a movie and then try and stretch it out.
I see
to
what
its
you've
nth
done. I
degree.
see what you've done
Well,
there, Ben. That
we're
was
not ready to go there yet, Michael, because
that was
I've another question there.
absolute
I have
delight
another
of a
question there
segue
for you.
you've wasted.
We can segue if you want. Would you like to segue
go on,
now?
go on. No,
I just want to know what happened this week on Snowpiercer. Is it a case by case?
No, it's one evolving mystery.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a little bit easier.
It is a little bit easier, but although it is one evolving mystery, they have taken, like I just said, it took a couple of watchings for me to really piece together what about it bothered me. And those kind of conceits of television dramas are what bother me. The cutting from location to location, and we just kind of are to fill in. We're to fill in how they got there. But in that universe, how people get there is what's fascinating about the universe.
And they're not doing it.
Yeah, that's much more fascinating than who's making illegal drugs. Like the structure,
illegal druggers.
Yeah, the structure of the train is much more interesting than
how does this society deliver meat?
Yeah, and Anyway, look, it's still well made though. It does. The other big issue about it, Ben, is it doesn't feel like it's on a train most of the time.
Oh,
a lot of the rooms just feel like rooms.
Okay, well that's no good, is it?
No,
that's no bloody good.
Funny thing about it though, Ben, season 2 is almost ready. They've almost finished season 2. Yeah, they made a season 2 assuming season 1 was going to be a success.
And has it been? I haven't kept up
I don't
with
know,
numbers
because Netflix don't do numbers, so you never really know.
Right.
There's your mum.
Is she behind me?
Yeah.
Is she gonna get me? Did we wave hi to my mum?
Hello.
No, she's gone. She's gone. Sorry, we should point that out, ladies and gentlemen. There's a big window behind me while we're in the tiny room. Tiny room.
There's his mum looking in. That's
and my
brilliant.
mother does her gardening.
There she
back
is.
there. So should you gaze through the electronic lens that Michael has, you'd be able to see my family.
Yeah, that's a good little diversion, isn't it? Ben, what was your second question, or was that your question?
No, I want to know, do Demi Moore and Best Damn Cop on the Train get it on?
Well, no, he is in a relationship, or two relationships.
Oh.
Yeah, because one in the poor section and one in the rich section. It's very complex.
Look at him.
Yeah.
Look at him throwing it around social classes. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Good for him.
He's upwardly mobile.
He is, apparently. And horizontally mobile.
Very good. No, any lovemaking so far has been vertical, actually, now that you mention it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Michael, what have you been watching that I've also recommended?
Ben, I have to say, Ben, probably your best Ben's recommends ever.
I think so.
I have watched almost all of What's Going On in the Shadows.
What's going on this afternoon?
What's Going On in the Shadows, Ben? It is a spectacularly good TV show.
Isn't it? It's just one of the better ones.
It's absolutely brilliant. And
it's just pretty great.
Yeah, it really is. And it's hilarious from start to finish.
Yeah.
The bloody characters, Ben, wonderful. Matt Berry plays Matt Berry if Matt Berry was a vampire.
But it's a great Matt Berry.
Yeah.
It's a nice version of Matt Berry. I'll have more, thank you.
Yeah, you're getting your money's worth out of Matt Berry, Ben. He makes hedge sculptures in the shape of vulvas.
Particularly his mother's.
Yeah, very good, very excellent. It has a weird relationship with the movie.
It does.
Because it is at the same time a remake and a sequel.
It is bizarrely like the first couple of episodes in season 1 are the movie stretched out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting, but I don't know. There's a lot more American commentary, I think, in this one.
Well, it's set in America, yeah.
Set in America,
yeah.
And I think Guillermo is such a fantastic addition as a familiar. I think he's perfect.
Yeah, he is, and he's great. But what I was getting, the weird thing about it is when you're watching it, up until the point where they introduce the whole idea that there's a council of vampires, and there's nothing to indicate that this isn't a remake.
True.
It's very much an American remake.
Yeah.
But at least they haven't cast Americans.
I know. There's not an American in the bunch.
I think is Colin Robinson American or is he Canadian?
I think he probably
Canadian.
is. Yeah, he could be Canadian though.
Colin Robinson, Ben, you told us a couple of weeks ago, he plays a modern energy vampire.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've met some people like him in real life, so I'm starting to think that I did think, Ben, in the very first couple of episodes where Colin Robinson was stealing people's energy by having boring conversations with them and frustrating them and making them fall asleep, I loved the concept that he might not actually be a vampire, that he might be so boring that everyone thinks he's a vampire. And I think it might have been heading that way.
Yeah, and then they just decided to expand it at some point.
Yeah, and then when he's categorically revealed to be definitely a vampire, he can fly, he has special powers. I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest. Because I loved the idea of just this guy who is so boring and so frustrating that even vampires are afraid of him.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like he's become my favorite Matt Berry thing. He's becoming too bloody powerful.
Yeah,
it's just
I love that concept, and it is diminished a little bit by the revelation that he is in fact an energy vampire, and there are others like him, and they're a powerful and modern type of vampire. It's slightly diminished by that, but he is probably my favorite character in it.
I'm
absolutely in love with Colin Robinson.
He's a real. They're just great. The character work is just phenomenal. Nadja is played by Natasha. I can't remember her second name. She's an English actress as well. Comedian. And then Nandor the Relentless is played by Kyan. Oh, I'm going to forget his name. I just think Nandor the Relentless is probably the best name I've ever heard for a vampire. Nandor the Relentless.
I don't know, Ben. I don't know if Nandor the Relentless is a better name for a vampire than Colin Robinson.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it's very you, Michael. I remember watching it going, this is very Mick Leonard.
It's very. I was speaking with the original glop of podcasting, Rachel, the other day, because you've spread this show into our social circles, as it were, Ben. And I said to her, Ben, was, it's very much my aesthetic, this program. I really do enjoy it.
Yes, it's all you. I would hope that the glamorous lady of podcasting, Rachel, will not take this as an insult, but whenever Nadja loses her temper in frustration at the idiocy of the people around her, I'm very much reminded of Rachel.
Oh, very good.
Very much.
I'm sure she would be very appreciative of that, because
I would hope so.
A glamorous lady vampire.
A glamorous lady vampire.
Of podcasting.
Yeah, the three of those actors are British. Kaivan Novak, Natasha, I still haven't got her name, and Matt Berry. They're all British, all but for Mark Porch of Colin Robinson fame.
He's not British.
He's not British.
Doug Jones, of course, Ben, is from deep below the sea.
Yes, deep below the sea.
Deep below the sea.
And the Baron in season 1 is none other than Doug Jones.
That's what I just said.
Oh, sorry.
I said Doug Jones, Ben, is from deep below.
Sorry,
you're just not listening to me. You're just thinking about the next thing you're going to say. So much has just been revealed about this podcast.
Sorry.
So, Benjamin.
My brain did a double take.
In light of the film, of the TV series Snowpiercer, which took an idea from a movie, Ben, and kind of remade it, but is sort of reimagined it, but probably isn't quite as good as the film that inspired it.
Almost definitely not.
And Ben, What's Going On at Nighttime, which is basically a retelling of a film, but use that kind of story to spin off into its own thing, and arguably, Ben, is better than the original.
I know, that's the weird part, isn't it? It is arguably better.
Yeah. So what we decided, Ben, and we're bloody neck deep in it already, Ben, but what we decided to cover this week was TV shows and films based on the same thing. Which did it better?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly, Ben. Exactly.
That's exactly what we got into, Michael. And then, of course, I embraced my inner chocolate teapot and did nothing.
You did no research whatsoever, Ben. So before we get into it, let's first talk about the advantages and disadvantages of cinema and TV. Sure. And why, historically, cinema was always better.
Well, Michael, there's the concept of the unity of experience, which was originally pioneered by Mr. Edgar Allan Poe, but probably has several other backers at this point. But the unity of experience is where you sit down, you run through a whole thing, And basically, whatever piece of fiction you're consuming, from start to finish, you do it in one sitting.
Right.
And it was widely believed by people like Edgar Allan Poe and many of his devout followers that this was the best way to consume a work of fiction because it had a more lasting impression upon you. So from that perspective, a longer movie would do exactly that. It would give you this unity experience.
It has a start, a middle, and an end, Ben.
It has a start, a middle, and an end, provided it's in any way a decent movie. And you can kind of get away with that kind of thing. However, Michael, it could be argued that a longer form of storytelling allows you to form more of a bond over time as character growth happens and you kind of connect to it. And it really depends on which format you prefer, I suppose, in your fictional devouring.
The thing to bear in mind as well, Ben, is up until recently there were vast differences in both budget and scheduling.
Yes, huge.
If you're making a movie, if one Benjamin Junior Colopy decides to make a movie, and you say, all right, I'm making a movie about a man, he's a man about town, and halfway through the movie he finds out that he used to be an Egyptian princess, and he's been reincarnated, and now he has to stop the apocalypse. And you decide to make that. Yeah, I know, you'd make it. So if you decide to make that movie, Ben, you get to spend half your life working on the script.
Yes.
Imagining every shot, frame by frame, how you want it to look.
Good.
And Ben, the bloody movie comes out when you finish it.
Yeah, you have time.
Exactly, Ben. And then if you're a big Hollywood man, you got loads of money behind it as well.
It's a nice,
so you
nice
can put
quick
in
little
your
exchange of cash.
Yeah, you can put in your expensive special effects. You can hire actors and say, that's it, we're blocking out a week until we get this shot.
Yeah, it's nice.
TV, on the other hand, Ben, up until very recently in the modern times, much lower budget.
Yes.
Yeah, and even more importantly, I think, with regards to quality, schedules.
Yeah.
Or as you say, schedules.
Do I say schedules?
No.
No, I think I say a schedule.
You say timetable.
A timetable.
Yeah.
A time frame.
The TV has a timetable. The TV is like, that's it. Benjamin, we want 22 episodes of Man Who Was an Egyptian Princess, and we want them next March. And I tell you what you can do, Benjamin. You can make the first 5 episodes, his origin story. You can make those now. We'll put those on the television, and if people like it, then we'll have 13 more. And we'll have 13 more each week for the next 13 weeks. And you better get on it, you and your actors. And then you're like, oh, bloody hell. I only had some kind of vague ideas here. I better hire a team to sketch these out very quickly and make this shit.
And emphasis on this shit being
exactly
the key phrase there.
So that's why, historically, TV was not as good as cinema. But, Ben, we live in a very different era now.
We do.
Go on.
We do indeed. Sorry,
What's going on?
My brother is trying to watch the TV on mute, but he thought he didn't have the TV muted, so he was absolutely bricking himself because he turned the TV on and it was about to blare sound in the middle of our podcast.
What's he watching?
Yeah, I don't know what.
Is it better than the movie?
He's watching horse racing. He's probably got money on the horses, Michael. Money on the horses. So he wants to see who wins.
Well, the question, Ben, is live horse racing on TV, is that better than the film that it's based on, Seabiscuit?
Seabiscuit? I don't know. Probably not. First of all, because I don't like Tobey Maguire much. But second of all, probably doesn't have the same kind of gripping thrill.
Yeah. So what are we talking about, Ben? We're trying to decide.
TV shows.
Yeah, we're trying to decide. So in the olden days, Ben, when a film came out based on a movie, or a reimagining of a movie, or a retelling of a movie, or a TV show came out based on a movie, it was usually a bit of a pile of poo because they didn't have the budget or the timing or the time to do things properly.
No experimentation, Michael. TV executives, very conservative bunch.
Get what we asked for. Get it on the screen every week. Put it there, make it slightly exploitative, or else you're out, Ben.
Or else you're bloody out. CW's business model in a nutshell.
Benjamin, one of the earliest TV movies that became a TV shows was one of your favourites, Benjamin, The Mash.
The Mash.
Yeah, The Mash.
Yes, The Mash with good old Eagle Eye, and his gang of surgeons in the Nam.
It's in Korea, Ben.
In the Korea.
Yeah.
In the Korea. Yeah, I love that show. Definitely didn't get that wrong. Yeah, bloody Mash, Michael, is probably a success story more than anything else, because I tell you what I don't remember.
The film MASH.
The film MASH.
Yeah.
Tell you what I do remember.
The TV series MASH.
Yeah, you see, you got it in one.
Or, Ben, even if we then kind of move forward a little bit to the late 90s and early 2000s, if you remember, Ben, there was a film of the comic book character Blade.
Yeah, awful.
The films.
No, the TV show.
The TV show, not very good.
Not very good.
Not one of the best films. It had Sticky Fingers in it as Blade. I believe, that gentleman's real name, but that's his rap name.
I'm sorry, I just can't.
Yes.
It's just ridiculous.
So, Benjamin,
Sticky Fingers.
There was also a Blade Runner TV series, which was absolutely dreadful.
What?
Yeah, it wasn't very Blade Runner at all. It was like a precursor to the cop and a replicant drama shows that
like
are so
Almost Human.
Like Almost Human, yeah, that are so common now. Almost Human would have been quite a good Blade Runner TV show if they decided to go down that route. Anyway, Benjamin,
go on.
What we've decided to do.
Are you struggling today, Michael?
No, we're fine. What we've decided to do is for each of us to watch a film and a TV series based on that film and try to decide where did the magic lie? Did the magic lie in the movie or in the TV series?
Yes.
So you haven't done it, so I've done two. So
good.
I started, Benjamin, with a film which came out in the year 1992, Ben.
1992.
1992. How old were you in 1992, Ben?
I was 1.
But a swaddling babe.
A swaddling baby.
Yeah. And Benjamin, the film which I watched, released in 1992, was Buffy, the Vampire Slayer. You have to put the comma.
Have to put the comma. Very important. Buffy, the Vampire
Slayer. Yes. Not Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy.
Was the comma in the shape of a little fang?
No.
They missed a beat there.
Yeah. Buffy,
gold.
the Vampire Slayer, 1992, Ben. Have you ever seen it, Ben?
I haven't, Michael.
You've probably heard of it for being much maligned.
Yeah, it didn't do great from what I understand in the internet annals.
No, it was savaged by critics.
Good.
It was a very, very, very minor financial success. Because it was very cheap to make. It cost about $7 million in 1992 money, which is the equivalent of $100 million today.
Was it very exploitative, Michael?
No, it was directed by a lady. So it's not terribly exploitative of Buffy. In fact,
probably why it didn't do well in 1992.
Very good. You've hit 1992 right where it hurts. It's directed by a lady called Franz Kuzui. I think that's her married name. I think it's a Japanese name. And discovered by her as well. Written by Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon. And
noted bad egg.
Yeah, medium bad egg, I think. He's no Kevin Spacey, I don't think.
Well, no, he hasn't molested any young men in the back of the Hollywood party.
Yeah.
That we know of.
That we know of, Ben.
That we know of.
But anyway, so Fran Kuzui discovered this piece of fiction by Joss Whedon and kind of worked together to bring it to the big screen. But, Ben, as you kind of pointed out there in your dig at 1992 wasn't ready for a strong female lead who is complex and has emotions and conflicts.
Women with emotions? Yeah. Get out of here.
Get out of here. Women don't do jokes. Women are just pretty.
What do you mean she doesn't need a man to come in and save her?
Yeah, we've got Luke Perry here. Was it Luke Perry? I think it was Luke Perry, wasn't it? I watched it the other day. I can't keep my Perrys straight. I think it is Luke Perry from 90210. He died quite recently, actually.
Get your bloody Perrys in a row there.
So we shouldn't speak ill of him. So anyway, Buffy, Ben, is a high school cheerleader. She's one of the popular girls. And one day she's visited by a creepy man called Donald Sutherland.
Oh, Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
Is he a Giles?
He's kind of the Giles of it, yeah. His name is Merrick in this.
Okay.
And Merrick shows up, and apparently the director was a kind of a new director, and Donald Sutherland was the big name on the screen, on the cast. And Donald Sutherland kind of ad-libbed his character, and the director was too afraid of him and his Hollywood power to tell him to stop. And it resulted in a lot of inconsistencies. Like, he kind of implies he's either immortal or he's reincarnated every lifetime. But it's never really clear which it is, because Donald Sutherland was just making it up. And all of this kind of stuff, the executives apparently took out most of Buffy's jokes.
Oh.
She was going to have some one-liners and stuff, and
because women can't be funny, you see, in 1992.
She has one good joke where a vampire who's lost an arm, she's fighting him, and he's kind of winning ever so slightly, and he's like, "We're vampires, we're immortal, we can do anything," and then she stabs him and says, "Oh yeah, clap."
Nice. That's pretty good.
He has one arm, and
pretty
there are moments like that where you're saying, "Oh, there's Buffy." There's Joss Whedon's Buffy.
There she is.
But the biggest flaw of the whole thing, Ben, is it is a film which is a concept. And the concept is, imagine if a normal high school American girl was a vampire slayer. And that's a fine concept, as we saw from the 7 series of Buffy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have room to breathe.
And that's why TV did it better.
That is why, in this case, the Buffy series is a heck of a lot better than the movie. There are good things about the movie. People obviously love Sarah Michelle Gellar, but Christy Swanson in this does a pretty damn good Buffy, in my opinion. And
shame for her.
She is more physically believable as an ass kicker than Sarah Michelle Gellar.
I was recently, Michael, E4 here in Ireland, the UK channel, is re-showing all of Buffy from start to finish.
Right.
And my sister has taken to watching it with me.
Yes.
Because she's quite interested in the thing. Sarah Michelle Gellar is a very small lady.
She's a little teeny tiny lady.
She's a little tiny lady.
But that is part of it. That's part of the kind of conceit, isn't it? That it's who you at least expect.
Yeah, she catches you off guard. But my goodness, what a tiny lady.
It's not even that I mean. It's in the training montage on this. Christy Swanson is an athlete, I think, or was an athlete. She has no punching and kicking technique, really.
Oh.
But she's hitting a heavy bag, and she's whacking it.
She's getting a schmack.
She is going full force kicking that bag, and she does a couple of pretty good jump kicks, and she's really gritting her teeth and going hard. She's not acting like she's boxing. She's really
boxing.
Well, I mean, she still can't throw a punch properly, but she's really going hell for leather for it, and it makes it all the more believable to see someone really genuinely going wild trying to knock a bag down.
One of the great criticisms you could have of Buffy the Vampire Slayer is that those hits don't land.
No.
There's no satisfaction.
The funny thing in this is the hits in the training montage are excellent. You can really see her whacking her forearms into this piece of wood as hard as she can. And all credit to either the actress or the stunt lady, because that probably hurt. But then the fight scenes, Ben, because they had 5 weeks to film this movie. Because Luke or Matthew Perry had a 5-week break from Beverly Hills 90210. And every single fight scene is people stumbling around the place. Their timing is off. They miss each other. People kind of go, and jump back and don't do anything for a couple of seconds and then get stabbed. It's terrible. The action is terrible.
It sounds pretty bad.
There's a scene where she stabs a flagpole at Rutger Hauer. Rutger Hauer playing a vampire, Ben, not the actor Rutger Hauer. He's on the ground and he rolls out of the way and she stabs down with the flagpole. But he rolls out of the way so far in advance of when she finally stabs down. The shot lingers on the floor for a second and you can see about 30 holes in the floor where they've done the shot.
Oh, God.
And every time they've done the shot, they've stabbed the hole in the floor, and all the holes are just in the floor.
Because they can't fix that. It's too late.
Yeah, and they didn't have time to do it. Basically, they didn't
That's
have time to
hilarious.
get it bang on right. So a lot of it is this'll do. But you can't fault Christy Swanson. She does a pretty good job, and I think if she hadn't aged out of it, because she was about 33 or 34 by the time
That's
the TV
too
series came out.
old.
Yeah. By the time the TV series came around, she was about 33 or 34. She would have been a fine Buffy. I think she could have carried a whole TV series, and she would have been great.
Yeah, I mean, it could have happened, Michael. Could have happened.
But, Ben, the TV show is better. It has room
Fair
to
enough.
breathe. It has room to develop the vampires. The vampires in this are just, we're here, we're vampires, we're going to get you. And then some of them are, exactly. So they do that a lot.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, the vampires actually just go, there. People go, what the hell is this? But it is a comedy, but it's not a great film. So that's a victory for TV, Ben, over film.
It's funny that you've said that. There's kind of a weird thing that happened in the 2010s through to 2020.
Yeah.
And that was where they started combing through old films, old classics, and turning them into extended TV series for some reason.
Right.
I think it was especially prevalent with horror kind of films that had done
Right.
very well.
Yeah.
And they kept turning them into origin stories. I think this is one of the big... I think you could probably land it as a big sin of certain things, of certain TV shows, but in other cases, they kind of just did a retelling of the story. The two that spring to mind for me, Michael, are bloody Bates Motel, which was a kind of deep dive into the background of Norman Bates from Psycho, and Hannibal, which was kind of a deep dive into the history of the famous killer from Silence of the Lambs. And it's real bloody interesting, Michael. Both those shows really took a very light sprinkling of inspiration from the movies and then turned them into these grand, kind of psychologically tense horror fests, thriller kind of things. And I think certainly, I'm not sure about Bates Motel because I haven't seen much of it. I've only seen a little bit. I lie, Michael. I did do a little bit of YouTube research before this just to make sure.
Boo.
But I couldn't leave you out there, Michael.
Just leave
all
me
at
hanging.
sea with nothing but a chocolate teapot. Oh, useless.
The Michael and Chocolate Teapot podcast.
Probably pretty catchy, actually. The Chocolate Teapot would be a great name for a podcast. Where we look into the history of useless inventions and why they became successful.
That already exists, Ben. Talk about Bates Motel.
Sorry, yeah. So, I mean, Bates Motel is... Bates Motel was kind of a standard kind of retelling of a horror thing. They looked at the really twisted relationship between Norman Bates and his mother. And it turns out that he was always a bloody oddball. But it was really down to Mummy Dearest kind of just ruining his life by twisting his mind and turning him into a bloody weird weirdo. Bloody big old weirdo.
A big weird weirdo.
And I think that was relatively successful. But then to take that a step further, Hannibal came along with noted Danish actor Mads Mikkelsen in the lead role. And I have to say, Michael, bloody intimidating figure of a man. Great choice for a cannibalistic psychopath. Big spooky guy. And it delves into his relationship with Will, the young psychologist who sends Claire in the original Silence of the Lambs to meet him.
Clarice, Ben.
Clarice. Sends him to meet him in the original film. And it kind of expounds on their relationship. And what we follow is Will's kind of descent into madness by association with Mads Mikkelsen's Hannibal.
It's an interesting case, isn't it? Because it's not exactly... It's not Silence of the Lambs, the TV show.
No.
Nor is
Not
it
at
Red
all.
Dragon, the TV show.
Thank God.
Oh, bloody hell, I'm telling you, it puts the lotion in the basket or else it gets the hose again. Benjamin, it's a weird one. Scream as well. Scream recently got that treatment with MTV making a TV series of Scream.
I didn't see that. What?
Yeah. You're right. There was a kind of rash recently of horror movies being made into TV shows.
It was a 2010 to 2020. It was the what do we call them? The
2010s. The 2010s.
2010s.
The
2010s.
The roaring 10s.
2010s were bloody. It was awash with horror remakes and attempts at that kind of thing. Bloody weird.
I tell you what, though, Ben.
What?
Here's a very successful TV show from a movie, Ben. Are you familiar, Ben, with 1996?
The year.
Yes.
I had a thing with his sister a while back, but in passing. Go on.
How do you feel about 1996 as and when compared to 1992, Ben?
Well, I was a little bit older then, Michael, a little bit wiser,
Yes.
so I probably prefer 1996 to be
Yeah,
honest.
you were 4. No, 5.
4, yeah. 5. Whole 5.
Yeah.
I was 5 years old. 5
Yeah.
3/4.
Benjamin, in 1996, a seminal film came out.
Yeah.
It was written and directed by the team of Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, Ben, and it was Stargate. Benjamin,
Yeah.
have you seen the 1996 film Stargate, Ben?
No, I've managed to avoid it thus far in my career, Michael.
Okay, so I watched it again. It's not horrible. It's not great. It's not an amazing film. There's a young what's his face that women like, James Spader. He's in it.
Jimmy Spades.
Yeah, Kurt Russell is in it.
Curty Russ.
Your favorite actor, Benjamin, playing strangely against type, has French Stewart as a kind of tough military guy.
French Stewart.
Yeah, your favorite actor, Freedom
Who is
Stewart.
French Stewart?
French Stewart, you know the guy, he's got squinty eyes and he played Inspector Gadget in Inspector Gadget 2. He was in Third Rock from the Sun. Your favourite actor, Freedom Stewart.
My favourite actor, French Stewart, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
He's in it as a tough military guy, playing totally against type. But, Ben, if you remember, it is the story of an archaeological team in Egypt who dig up a Stargate, and it leads to another planet, and everyone on the other planet mysteriously looks like humans. And it turns out, Ben...
handy.
Yeah, well, it turns out, Ben, they are humans.
Oh.
Because they were kidnapped millennia ago by an alien.
What?
Yeah, an alien who took on who decided to either inspired the legend of or took on the character of, depending on which version you're following, of the ancient Egyptian god Ra.
Nice.
And kind of set himself up as the god of ancient Egypt, Ben.
Good man.
And he took some of them off to his planet and he left some of them on Earth. The ones on Earth, Ben, rebelled and overthrew their leaders and
Good,
buried the Stargate so it could never happen. But the ones on the other planet still live like it's ancient Egypt and they're slaves to Ra.
Not very progressive.
And Ben, it wasn't a very well received film at the time, despite not being horrible.
Oh, okay. It wasn't horrible.
It's not great. It's not an all-time classic film.
Okay.
But it's all right. I think the thing at the time it came out, people didn't get it.
That's fair enough. It's a pretty high concept sci-fi thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, maybe in 1996 it was.
Not now, Michael.
Not
Nothing
now,
is
exactly.
new now.
But that's what I'm saying. These days, a kind of military action science fiction film, that's a genre we know and understand.
It's bloody the United States as we bloody fucking...
I'm telling
as
you.
we live and breathe.
I'm telling you. But in 1996, Ben, when this came out, people were like, this is light on plot and very fantastical and there's too many special effects.
This?
Yeah, and people didn't kind of get it and it wasn't amazingly popular.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? But,
Yeah.
Ben, popular enough and financially successful enough that it split off into 2 channels. Dean Devlin, the writer, had planned a trilogy of movies that he still wishes to continue to this day.
What?
And he still thinks that his mates, Kurt Russell and James Spader, would be willing to come back.
Oh, Dylan, give it up. Or
Who's
Dean.
Dylan?
Dean, sorry.
Dean.
Dean, give it up.
It's not going to happen, Dean Devlin, you weirdo.
Dean,
But Ben,
Dylan, Devlin.
in the
you
real
donkey.
world, it became a TV show.
It did.
It did. And it became a very fastly popular and successful TV show.
It did, didn't it? It was really big at one point.
It really reignited modern TV science fiction, to be honest.
It had a spin-off as well, didn't it? It had Stargate Atlantis.
It had Stargate Atlantis. It had Stargate Universe. It had a kids cartoon called Stargate Infinity, I think.
I remember that. That's
Yeah,
weird.
it really developed its world. And the funny thing about it was the TV series was very much sold as the continuation of the movie Stargate.
Right.
They cast Michael Shanks essentially as a James Spader impersonator.
Okay.
So in season 1 and season 2 of the TV show Stargate SG-1, Michael Shanks plays James Spader playing Daniel Jackson.
Nice.
But it runs 10 seasons, Ben. So by the end, he's become totally his own character.
Nothing to be sniffed at.
Yeah. I read a very good review on the internet from like 2008. And it said that after watching Michael Shanks develop the Daniel Jackson character for so long, people get confused when they see James Spader and they go, why is James Spader speaking so slowly? Because Michael Shanks had developed it into his kind of quick-thinking, manic character.
Kind of guy, yeah.
Yeah. The biggest difference, though, is the total reimagining of the main character's personality, because they recast Kurt Russell, who's this joyless, grim... He's ready to die. That's why he goes on the Stargate mission.
Okay.
He doesn't care if he dies. And then they recast him as MacGyver. Wisecracking.
Yeah. Wisecracking MacGyver.
Wisecracking God's favourite idiot, MacGyver.
God's favourite idiot.
But yes, Ben, I don't know if you've seen the pilot episodes of...
Wait.
What?
I just want to enjoy the phrase God's favourite idiot.
I think I stole that from Ryan Reynolds. I think that's how he describes Deadpool.
Oh, that was excellent, Michael. Thank you very much. I'm delighted. Go on, keep going.
The TV show, the first couple of episodes, the pilot of the TV show, were very, very, very much aimed at continuing this military science fiction fantasy adult. There's nudity in the first episodes, Ben, of Stargate SG-1.
There's a what?
There's nudity in the first couple of episodes of Stargate SG-1.
Get out of town.
Nudity.
Stargate.
Honest to God, nudity on Stargate. It makes so little sense the route Stargate has gone down. I would call it, Ben, unlike Buffy, where the TV show is categorically better than the film, I think the movie does have its fans who don't like where the TV show went.
Oh, okay. So it's just a division, a schism.
A bit of a schism. I think the TV show's better because it's one of my favourite TV shows of all time. But
really?
Yeah, I love Stargate SG-1. It's brilliant.
I would not have thought that. That's interesting.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. It took the idea of the Stargate and took it to a logical place of them going everywhere and anywhere. And it's one of the only science fiction TV shows I've ever seen where the Stargate, the existence of a kind of a conceit like this, changed the world.
Yeah, fair.
Without that being the point.
Yeah, okay.
So it wasn't like, here's how the world has changed because this happened. But in season 1, they're, humans stumbling through the Stargate and going off and discovering the universe. By season 10, they have a fleet of spaceships.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And it's essentially you're watching the Star Trek origin story. It's quite strange. It's quite fun.
Oh, there you go.
I like Stargate. Anyway, yeah. So,
you're a big fan
Ben,
of Stargate. Yeah.
Do you think the listeners might have any other TV show versus movies?
Don't you go stepping on my coattails, son.
All right,
that's my line. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have anything that you think did a better job on either the television or on the big old silver screen? Which was better? Do you have any other examples for us? One of the ones we forgot here, Michael, today that we didn't talk about at all is the bloody demented process of constantly turning every single Disney movie into a long old TV series after its original success. But we'll get into that another time, Michael. I'm sure there's probably another place we can do all that. Ladies and gentlemen, do let us know if you think there are any TV series that did it better or any movies that did it better. You can get in touch with us in a number of ways. You can find us on seomrabeag.com, seomrabeag.com.
It means tiny room in Irish.
It does indeed. You can find us on Le Gram at the same address, seomrabeag, no .com this time, because it's bloody social media.
Social media, you don't need .com.
Silly gooses. Moving on from there, ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to us in a variety of places, you might be listening to us on the Tube of You. If you're listening to us there, do give us an L, subscribe, a like, and a comment, or even one of those will do.
Anyone.
One of those will do. I'll take the one. If you're listening to us on Spotify, which is more than likely where you are listening to us, ladies and gentlemen, do give us an follow and share us on your Instagram stories for all your pals.
Do a share.
For all your pals. We'll be really well behaved on the next one, so they won't think you're a bloody weirdo. And then, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, you can probably get in touch with us. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts and do something positive in our favour on Google Podcasts.
Whatever it may be. I don't know. I don't get it.
That's it from us, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.
See you next week. Ben, tell them about collecting issues.
Oh yeah, they'll be collecting issues this bloody Wednesday where we take a look at Planetary, Volume 1 by Warren Ellis and John Cassaday. Sean Cassaday?
John Cassidy.
John Cassaday.
Cassidy.
Something Cassaday. Bloody great comic. Okay, stay tuned for Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you now. See ya.
Bye.
Oh, I wasn't recording.